Hello, my name is Joseph. I live in Nazareth. It's just a little couple miles away from Bethlehem, and your pastor had asked me to come and share with you my story. I'm going to ask, first of all, that you kind of be quiet because my wife and my newborn are just fast asleep. I don't want to wake them. So, your pastor asked me to share this story with you. And at first, whenever he asked me this, I thought, are you sure you want me to share this story? I've shared it with other people, and I get strange looks, weird looks, crazy looks. In fact, many times when I share this story, they tell me, Joseph, you're a fool. How could you believe this story? This is so crazy. Joseph, you're so gullible. I've heard it all. In fact, some of them have been so mean to me. Mean to my wife. Said things that, well, I'll not repeat them here. But they were very hurtful. But your pastor said that it's okay that I could share this story because y'all believe anything. Now, I don't know exactly what he meant by that. But he said that this was a safe place for me to share this story. And so my story really begins a couple months ago. Several months ago, actually. I was working in as a carpenter, and I had just gotten betrothed. I'm sorry, that's not a word you guys use. I had just gotten engaged. That's the right terminology, correct? Yeah, okay. I had just gotten engaged, and I was looking for all of the things we were going to do. I was looking forward to building a family with Mary. I loved her so much. She was the prettiest girl in Nazareth. And she just had this spark about her. I loved her so much. And I had plans of building a family together. And in fact, I was at the time, I was building a house on my father's property so that we could begin our life together. And we were planning the marriage, and we were planning all of these things. And I had all these really great ideas, the future and all of those things. And then one day, Mary pulls me aside and she tells me, Joseph, we've got to talk. Now, have you ever had those moments where someone says you've got to talk and you know it's pretty serious? Well, that was that moment for me. And I heard her say that, and I said, what could this be? I thought in my head, what in the world could she possibly want to talk? Maybe someone said something to her in the marketplace. Maybe somebody had looked at her funny, or there was some problem, or maybe she was getting cold feet. I don't know what it could have been. So I have to be honest with you. My mind was racing, and it got even worse because she said, Joseph, you're going to want to sit down for this. Now, you and I both know that when someone says that, it's serious. And then it even got worse because she started looking around as if she was a little nervous, and she said, is there some place we can talk privately? What was this all about? I couldn't believe it. I thought to myself, this has got to be some really bad news. Like maybe she's dying. Maybe the cat died as well. I don't know what might happen. My mind was reeling. And finally, we get to this quiet place where no one's around. And I sit down and I say, okay, Mary, tell me what you're talking about. What is wrong? She begins to tell me, she says, don't be angry with me. Just hear me out. That got my attention. I would never be angry with her. How could I ever be angry with this woman that I love? How could I ever be upset with her? What could she possibly do? And then I started thinking about some things. And then all of a sudden, she tells me that she had an angel come to her. This angel's name was Gabriel. And starting that story off was really interesting. I thought, man alive, if this is how you're beginning your story, we've got a doozy. And she goes and she tells me, she says, Joseph, Gabriel came to me, an angel came to me, and this angel told me that I was going to give birth to a son. and that he was going to be great, and that it'll be by God, and God was going to do a great work in this son that I would give birth to. And I said, okay, so that means my son, right? And she goes, well, here's the catch. It's not your son. And then I began to think, well, whose son is it? Because this is the only way it works. Like, there's a guy and there's a girl, and, well, we'll not get into those things, but you all know what I'm talking about. And so my mind was going, what in the world is happening? How, Mary, what are you talking about? And she told me that this boy, this son, that she was going to be pregnant, but she was still a virgin. Okay. I didn't know exactly how to process that story for me. She told me she was pregnant. I was speechless. I couldn't figure out what to say next, and so my mind was racing. Does she think I'm a fool? I mean, does she think I'm stupid? Does she think I'm going to buy this story? This is an absolute ludicrous story. There is no way that anyone was going to believe this. Why would she think that this was a story she could share with me and be perfectly fine with? And so I went home that day and I began thinking about what Mary had told me. Part of me wanted to believe this. But this was too fanciful. This was too out of the world kind of stuff. I couldn't believe that Mary was pregnant by God. Could I? So that night I just kept on thinking about, what am I going to do? I love her. I care for her. But I can't marry her. And then how am I supposed to break it off? Because in my culture, if I did that, she could be ridiculed. In fact, worse, she could be stoned to death. I didn't want that for her. So I began thinking maybe I could just put her away privately, just where no one would know. We just solved the issue that way. Maybe she could go to some other place and claim that she was a widow and live her life as best as she could. I didn't know what to do. I wanted to do the best thing for her, and I decided to sleep on it. And that night I lay down and I slept, and I had a dream. I think it was a dream. Maybe it was a vision. I don't know. But an angel of the Lord came to me and told me, Joseph, don't be scared to take Mary as your wife. What she said actually happened, and this son will be great. He's the promised Messiah. He is Emmanuel. Don't be worried. This is all from God. And I woke up and I was like, what am I going to do? This is from God? It's a little hard to believe. But you know what? I chose to believe it. I chose to believe in what God was telling me. And so I took her as my wife. And we have just now had a baby. And I have to tell you, there's some weird things that have happened tonight. Crazy things. Another crazy experience that I can't wrap my mind around it. But as I've thought about that story, what happened in my story for several months now, I began thinking, everybody, when I shared this story with other people, everybody told me I was stupid and gullible. Everybody thought it was outlandish that this story would even be true and how I would even believe it. But I chose to focus on what God wanted me to do. And leave all of the naysayers, all of the whisperers, all of the negativity, all of the things even in my own head that were constantly calling me in doubt and fear And I laid them aside just to trust in God. And maybe that's the lesson for me. It's not to look at all of the other negative stuff, but look to God. I'm sorry, I'm going to have to cut this short. I just heard the baby wake up. But you need to hear the story from one of the shepherds. There's some shepherds down past Bethlehem. And you need to go and talk to them and hear their story. Because it too is outrageous. It is an interesting story. I'm still wrapping my head around it. But at any rate, I've got to go take care of this baby. But it was great talking with you. I hope that you have a great day today. And God bless.